A black woman, once rejected by a billionaire CEO 8 years ago, now controls his inheritance. Rose Johnson holds Wilson Harrington's $2.8 billion fortune in her hands. Will she choose revenge or redemption? Have you ever wondered what it feels like to suddenly hold power over someone who once broke your heart? Rose Johnson wasn't born into privilege. The daughter of Jamaican immigrants, she grew up in a vibrant working-class neighborhood where community meant everything. Her mother, a dedicated nurse working double shifts, and father, a passionate high school history teacher, sacrificed endlessly to nurture her passion for art. Their pride was palpable when she earned full scholarship through college and eventually completed her Ph.D. in art history and conservation. Her journey wasn't easy, working multiple jobs while studying, facing subtle discrimination in academia, but Rose's determination never wavered. At 35, Rose had built a reputation as a miracle worker in the art world. Her hands could breathe life into damaged masterpieces others deemed beyond saving. The Metropolitan Museum fought to keep her on staff, while private collectors offered small fortunes for her expertise. But beneath her professional success lay a woman guarded by invisible walls. A former colleague had stolen her groundbreaking research years ago, leaving her wary of opening up again. Her warmth emerged only when discussing art or during Sunday dinners with her family in the same neighborhood where she was raised. Wilson Harrington inhabited an entirely different universe. The 40-year-old heir had transformed his grandfather's oil company into a modern energy empire spanning 5 continents. Forbes regularly featured him as one of America's most eligible bachelors, his carefully crafted public image projecting confidence and control. Few glimpsed a man who carried crushing family expectations and a profound fear of vulnerability. His childhood had been privileged but lonely. Boarding schools from age 7, parents who measured love and achievements rather than affection. His marriage to Boston's socialite Catherine Winthrop had ended in a quiet divorce 5 years earlier, leaving him surrounded by people yet profoundly alone. The only genuine joy in Wilson's life came from his art collection, not just as investments, but as emotional anchors in his transactional world. Each piece told a story that resonated with parts of himself he rarely showed others. Neither could have predicted how Marcus Harrington would posthumously force their worlds to collide. Wilson's eccentric uncle had abandoned the family business decades ago, choosing instead to become an art collector with a conscience, and apparently a secret matchmaking agenda that would reach beyond the grave. 8 years earlier, Rose was still building her reputation at the Metropolitan Museum. On a quiet Tuesday evening, she was meticulously restoring a damaged Caravaggio when Wilson Harrington entered the private viewing area after hours. The precision in your hands. It's like watching someone perform surgery and create poetry simultaneously, he said, startling her. Rose looked up, immediately recognizing the billionaire from magazine covers. His presence was more commanding in person, his eyes more perceptive than cameras captured. Mr. Harrington, I didn't realize anyone was here. Please call me Wilson. His smile seemed genuine, lacking the practiced charm she'd expected. I've never seen someone so completely absorbed in their work. Their conversation flowed effortlessly for hours, moving from art history to philosophy to their shared love of 1960s jazz. When the museum lights began shutting down, Wilson invited her to dinner. Against her better judgment, Rose accepted. That night marked the beginning of an intense connection. For 2 weeks, they were inseparable, attending gallery openings, sharing late-night conversations about art and life, slowly revealing pieces of themselves they rarely showed others. Rose found herself falling for this complex man who seemed so different from his public image. Wilson, accustomed to people wanting him for his wealth or status, was captivated by a woman who challenged his thinking and saw beyond his facade. Then came the community meeting where Rose discovered Wilson's company was behind a luxury development project threatening to demolish her family's historic neighborhood. Hundreds would be displaced, including her parents who had lived there for 30 years. She confronted him that evening in his penthouse, voice shaking with betrayal. Were you ever going to tell me? Or did you think I wouldn't care because you've been whining and dining me? Wilson's expression hardened, the warmth she'd come to treasure vanishing instantly. This is business, Rose. The neighborhood is declining. Our development will increase property values throughout the area. Property values? We're talking about people's homes, their communities, their histories. You're being emotional. This is why I don't usually mix business with pleasure. Emotional? Rose's voice rose. These are my parents' neighbors. People I grew up with. Wilson's jaw tightened. I don't have time for idealists who don't understand business. The project is moving forward. Then we have nothing more to say to each other. Rose walked away, heart shattered not just by the end of their romance, but by the realization that she had so completely misjudged him. As the elevator doors closed between them, neither knew that 8 years later, fate would force them back into each other's lives. The news of Marcus Harrington's death shocked the art world. The eccentric collector had amassed one of the most significant private collections of Renaissance and Baroque art in America. But the real shock came during the reading of his will in the wood-paneled conference room of Blackwell and Associates. To Rose Johnson, whom I have had the pleasure of mentoring these past 7 years, I entrust the stewardship of my entire art collection, valued at approximately $2.8 billion. The silver-haired lawyer read as gasps filled the room. Ms. Johnson will serve as executor with full discretionary power over any sales or loans of collection for a period of 5 years. Wilson's face drained of color. His uncle's art collection constituted nearly 40% of the Harrington family's liquid assets. Assets Wilson desperately needed as his company transitioned from fossil fuels to renewable energy. The timing couldn't have been worse. This is absurd, Wilson's cousin Bradford sputtered, his face reddening. She's not family. She's just some conservator Marcus hired. Marcus was of sound mind when he signed this document. The lawyer continued calmly. His wishes are legally binding. Rose sat perfectly still, as shocked as everyone else. Marcus had been her mentor, yes, but this level of trust was unexpected. She'd known nothing about this provision. When her eyes met Wilson's across the table, 8 years evaporated in an instant. He'd aged well. Silver now threaded through his dark hair at the temples, and fine lines around his eyes spoke of both laughter and stress. But the intensity in his gaze remained unchanged, now sharpened with something that looked dangerously like anger. Ms. Johnson, Wilson said with forced civility as the meeting concluded, "It seems we have matters to discuss." "It seems we do, Mr. Harrington," Rose replied, her voice steadier than she felt. As they stood facing each other in the now-empty conference room, the irony wasn't lost on either of them. The woman he had once dismissed now held the keys to his financial future. The power dynamic had completely reversed. The first weeks were a cold war of formal emails and terse phone calls. Wilson's board members pressured him to challenge the will, while Rose's family, especially her protective older brother, reminded her constantly of how Wilson's company had nearly destroyed their neighborhood years ago. "He's only being civil because he needs something from you," her brother warned during Sunday dinner. "Don't forget who he really is." Meanwhile, Wilson faced his own pressures. "Contest the will," Bradford insisted during a tense executive meeting. "She has no right to control Harrington assets." Wilson pinched the bridge of his nose. Marcus's lawyers were thorough. Challenging would be expensive, public, and likely unsuccessful. The stalemate might have continued indefinitely, if not for Dr. Elena Vasquez's urgent call. The renowned art authenticator had discovered alarming news during a routine inspection. "There's hidden damage to the Gentileschi," she explained to Rose. "Microscopic cracks in the varnish layer that could spread catastrophically. And if one painting has this issue, others might too." Rose finished, her stomach sinking. The Artemisia Gentileschi was worth over $30 million, one of collection's crown jewels. Within hours, Wilson arrived at Marcus's Manhattan apartment, where the painting was stored. "How bad?" he demanded. Rose showed him the microscopic images. "The entire collection needs immediate assessment, every single piece." "Fine. I'll have experts flown in tomorrow to—" "The works can't be moved," Rose interrupted. "The vibration could worsen the damage. We need to examine everything where they're currently housed." "Most of the collection is at Marcus's villa in Tuscany," Wilson said, frustration evident. "Then that's where we need to go." Wilson's eyebrow arched. "I'll do the assessments myself," Rose stated firmly. "No one knows these works better than I do." "Then I'm coming too," Wilson countered. These assets are too valuable to my company's future to leave in anyone else's hands, even yours. 3 days later, they arrived at Marcus's sprawling 16th-century villa nestled among Tuscan vineyards. For 2 weeks, they maintained professional distance, communicating through clipped sentences and formal notes. But art has a way of revealing truth, and gradually, professional respect began to replace animosity. Rose couldn't help but notice Wilson's genuine knowledge of collection, far deeper than a mere investor's interest. Wilson found himself impressed by Rose's dedication, often finding her still working at midnight. On the 15th night, a violent thunderstorm trapped them in the wine cellar. For hours, they sat in uncomfortable silence, until Wilson unexpectedly produced a bottle of Marcus's prized Brunello. "I canceled that development project," Wilson said suddenly, his voice quiet in the shadows. "What?" "After you walked away. I canceled it, bought the land, and transferred ownership to a community land trust instead." Rose stared at him in disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Besides, you made it clear we were done. Meeting you changed something in me, Rose." When maintenance finally freed them the next morning, something fundamental had shifted between them. In the days following, a cautious warmth developed. They began sharing meals, discussing the collection's future over Marcus's excellent wine, until Rose discovered legal papers in Marcus's study, outlining a strategy to contest the will. Wilson's signature wasn't on them, but his company's letterhead was unmistakable. "Were you playing me this whole time?" she confronted him. Wilson took the papers, his expression darkening as he read. "Bradford," he muttered. "My cousin had these drawn up without my knowledge. I swear to you I knew nothing about this." "Convenient," Rose said coldly, walking away. The standoff might have continued if not for an unexpected development. A Saudi prince offered $75 million for the petition, exactly what Wilson's company needed. "I need your approval for the sale," Wilson told Rose. "I'll approve it," she said finally, "with conditions. Half the proceeds will establish a foundation for arts education in underserved communities." "I'll match the foundation funding from my personal fortune," Wilson replied. "And I want to be on the board." 3 days before the sale was to be finalized, disaster struck. An expert questioned the petition's authenticity, threatening both the deal and Rose's professional reputation. Wilson could have protected himself from the fallout. Instead, he publicly declared his complete confidence in Rose's expertise and arranged for world-renowned experts to verify the painting's provenance. "Why are you doing this?" Rose asked. "If the authentication fails, your company loses a sale. Some things matter more than business." When the painting was authenticated, they celebrated under the Tuscan stars. With their professional obligations concluded, it was time to return to New York. "I have one request before you go," Wilson said. "There's something I'd like to show you." The next day, he drove them to Rose's childhood neighborhood. What she saw left her speechless. The neighborhood wasn't just intact. It was thriving. Historic brownstones stood beautifully restored. A modern building at the corner bore a sign, Harrington Community Arts Center. "I didn't just cancel the development," Wilson explained. "I created a community development fund with local leaders deciding how to use it. No displacement, just investment." "You did this after I left?" Rose asked. "Because you left," he corrected. "You made me see something I've been blind to. That business without humanity is just numbers on a spreadsheet." Their newfound connection deepened in the weeks that followed. Then came the discovery that threatened everything. Marcus's journal, revealing his elaborate matchmaking scheme. "He played us," Wilson said. All of this was his matchmaking scheme. They separated to soul search, each needing to be certain of their own hearts without Marcus's invisible hand guiding them. 3 weeks later, Wilson appeared unexpectedly at Rose's conservation lab, carrying a carefully wrapped package, a damaged landscape she had restored for Marcus years ago. "You brought it back to life," Wilson said, "not despite its scars, but with them as part of its new beauty." "I don't care why Marcus brought us back together," Wilson said quietly. "I only care that he did. What I feel isn't because of his manipulation. It's because of who you are, who I've become, and who we could be together." enough to give us a real chance this time. Her answer was to rise on tiptoes and press her lips to his. 1 year later, they married in Rose's neighborhood community center. The Harrington Johnson Foundation had already funded arts programs in 20 underserved communities nationwide. During the reception, they slipped away to a quiet corner where a special gift awaited them: the restored landscape painting, now framed alongside a page from Marcus's journal. True love doesn't erase our scars. It honors the strength they represent. Has someone from your past ever returned to your life in an unexpected way? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonates with you, like and subscribe for more powerful, inspiring stories.